Welcome back to Tales Tomorrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today, and I'm finally back from my hospital-related hell. Long story short, my mother got a kidney infection and she had to be rushed to the hospital, and since this is not the first episode of her being rushed to the hospital for an emergency, I wanted to make sure that I'm there to take care of her and make sure that she's okay. While I've been away, I noticed we reached like 1,000 subscribers, just a little bit over that. Holy heck, thank you guys so much, for real. I was in a bit of a bad place and kind of struggled with a lot of things going on in my head throughout this whole stressful situation. It was basically my own personal hell, but everything is finally calm and I'm back to be able to bring more RPG horror stories. And speaking of horror stories, do you remember that story that I covered before about Iris? Well, apparently there's not just one extra story, but two extra stories of players putting up with Iris's nonsense, which is very upsetting. And since it was kind of relevant to the previous story that I've done, I think my first video back should be about an insanely horny DM. I have a lot that I want to say, but I think it's best to leave a lot of that stuff for a Q&A video in the future. For now, I just want to say that I'm glad to be back and looking forward to more RPG horror stories together. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and check back on Iris. The Ballad of Iris, Your Free Time Is Mine. So I recently posted some of the horror stories about a former DM of my player group, and it really didn't cover even a small portion of the horror that Iris inflicted upon us. And as some people asked for more details, the group got together to decide what to make a big post of next. In the meantime, please enjoy or suffer through this uncurated selection of small to major problems caused by Iris that aren't worth their own posts. And yes, we know we should have left sooner. Okay, first two things. One, former DM. I am so happy you guys don't have Iris as your DM no longer. That is good to hear. Second, yeah, the fact that you admit that you probably should have left sooner, that's a good thing as well. Knowing when to get out of a bad situation and what to look out for, knowing the red flags ahead of time is always a good thing. It's better than being stuck in a place where you feel miserable. Especially if your whole party feels miserable. Iris would call us constantly, then knew our schedule, and would call us in Discord at any point that thought we were even remotely likely to be online. On my lunch break, oh, it's an incoming call. I should be getting off work. Incoming call. You came online for 30 seconds. Call. You just ended a call with Iris. Call. Every single day. Every single player. The only way to stop Iris from calling you was to either bluntly say, stop calling me, or to put yourself offline on Discord and refuse to answer any incoming calls. I get it, you want to call your friends and stuff. I completely understand. Online friends, be able to talk on Discord together and stuff is really cool. But like, sometimes I just want to be by myself, eating some McDonald's chicken nuggets and watching a tutorial video on how to take care of your tiefling horns. Without having Iris call me all the time, being offline was still not enough in some cases, as Iris did not care, even if they knew you were at work. Some of the players tried going into do not disturb mode, only to find Iris would call anyways. Some of the players, like myself, nearly always answered because I'm dumb, and others figured out they needed to avoid these calls at all costs to keep their sanity. Iris only worked 8 hours a week, and calling us was basically their hobby. Everybody got their own schedule going on, and they don't need somebody calling them 24/7 all the time whenever they're available. Iris publicly accused Psychic, my amazing friend and sorcerer player, of not being dedicated enough to the group because they didn't join a call once due to needing to work on homework for their bachelor's degree. Iris publicly talked about possibly kicking players who had been in the group for months because they missed one session. Iris threw a massive and publicly hissy fit when she suggested that we postpone a boss fight session due to Ranger, our only healer in the campaign, needing to miss the session. This suggestion was made because the boss was, as Iris put it, a CR 40 homebrew monster that had roughly 1,000 health and would automatically cast Power Word Kill. We were level 10. I feel bad for the Ranger. First of all, why is your Ranger a healer? Like, Rangers don't have a lot of spell points. Oh, spell slots. That's the default. I use spell points. Yeah, but yeah, anyway, apparently a ranger need to be doing the healing, the one that has the least amount of healing ability available out there. I mean, yeah, they have healing abilities, but like, without any spell slots or any other way to heal the party, what are they supposed to do? Just chuck potions at everybody until they heal up all the way? That'd be expensive. I kind of want to see this homebrew monster, but I kind of don't, because I'm kind of mad that Iris is throwing this insane challenge for players that aren't even the right level for it. CR 40. How do you even fight a CR 40? Iris threatened to withhold a level up for the group if my character didn't out herself and her entire backstory 5 sessions into a campaign. The character's identity was the only secret she had, and another character backstory had already been forcibly outed in the same session. But what if a character has a secret backstory, like a really bad backstory, and they don't want to talk to the party about it? Let's say, for example, your homebrew world does not allow necromancy because it's, I guess, the Elder Scrolls universe or something, and necromancy is a huge taboo. And let's say, for example, you were trained as a necromancer. Probably the last thing you want to do is tell your party, hey, I'm a necromancer, the big taboo of the entire world. Or maybe find a nicer way to do it at a later point, where I have to oust them. Plus, holding people hostage over somebody else's backstory not being fully revealed immediately? Bruh, that doesn't make sense. Constantly spoiled upcoming characters, fights, etc. to party members who did not want to hear it and said as much. Attempted to spoil other party members as well. Yeah, that would make a game so much more fun when you know what's up ahead. Wow, this surprise in my face is unbelievable. When I launched my very first campaign, I invited Iris, informing them it was a serious campaign, so please bring a serious character. They brought in the jokiest nerd with a lisp I've ever heard and interrupted everyone until they rage quit. Their character immediately launched onto the character of the player they had a crush on. It was very awkward. There's several posts worth of creepy behavior from Iris towards Rogue, but we'll post those later. Please do, I want to read them. I'm a masochist. I'm reading a story about a DM that is literally the worst, and I want to see how low they go. I'm a masochist. Later, when Iris made a new character for my campaign and rejoined, they noped out before the first session as that character and then constantly jumped in and out of call throughout the session, irritating everyone and sometimes making random noises. This forced us to make a new server Iris couldn't access just for that campaign. Oh, I feel that, dude. I feel that. You ever meet somebody that decides to be a distraction just for the sake of being a distraction? Like somebody on the sideline poking somebody with a stick just to try to like get a rise out of them, or just try to get someone's attention by making weird noises or saying weird things out loud. I say a lot of weird things as well, but everything that I say, I try to say it with a purpose, or with an iota of self-awareness, or with a bit of irony to try to make people react in a positive way. If somebody's just making noise in Discord just to try to get a rise out of people and get attention out of them just for the sake of attention, God, that is beyond infuriating. Iris would declare a start time, and if everyone showed up early, Iris would immediately start the game without asking anyone, even if it was 30 minutes until the game time. Due to this, multiple players started joining calls only at the last minute, as this disrespected and took away our table talk time. Iris would ping specific players constantly in the lead up to a session, even if the player had already told them they would be there in a minute. Iris did not ask people if they were ready to start. Iris told all of us not to tell anyone else if we were going to miss session, only them. This led to at least once where those who showed up were blindsided when the session was cancelled due to having too few players right at the start time. If the session is cancelled ahead of time, then you should probably tell your whole group about it, or else you're wasting everyone's time. Listen, sometimes things don't work out. People can't make to certain sessions, everybody get busy. The least you could do is have everybody clued in on what's going on. I made sure that every session for my Final Fantasy D&D campaign, we make a decision together as a proper group, instead of having somebody like Iris dictate when things are happening, and we won't know when things are cancelled or not until we show up to the damn thing. Iris is literally a sadist, not a sexual sadist, just a Discord sadist. If anyone was late and did not tell Iris, they would cancel session immediately at start time. If 2 players would miss or be late, session would also be cancelled, even if they messaged Iris that they were 5 minutes from their house. They were literally 2 minutes late, or if they were in the restroom and would be right there. The only exception was if Iris wanted to play without a certain player. This is a power trip. Iris is just trying to control the entire party through this. Iris is in a freaking power trip. Iris would do random time skips in game without giving players a chance to object. Iris would hold votes where all the votes were public in an attempt to shame anyone who voted red on whatever Iris wanted to do. Iris would get upset if people didn't vote within an hour of the post being made, even if it was posted in the middle of the night. We have players all around the world in different time zones. Iris has literally no life. And like, listen, I don't have a place to talk. I'm a virtual tiefling character in an RPG horror story reading video, right? But at least that I can do and anybody can do is just be polite of people's time zones. And if me and everybody else in the world can find a way to amicably respect other people's time zones, to try to have a little bit of fun in a D&D game or any other TTRPG game, then Iris could do the same thing, but Iris decides, no, things gotta happen now on my account because I'm the most important character ever. Iris literally has main character syndrome. They think that their time and their actions and what they want to do is the most important thing ever, and nobody else is important because everybody is a side character. Iris would mess with players' characters' sheets in the middle of the session, deleting items and abilities from people's sheets because they suddenly decided the ability was overpowered. They also forced one player to play champion fighters in every campaign and then delete their abilities in the middle of the session, as well as on character Iris themselves made. It's not gonna matter what I say at this point because I'm just mad, but I'm gonna give at least one positive thing in this video, and that is a constructive way to talk to a player on how to balance their overpowered ability. In Final Fantasy XIV D&D, there's a race or species called Viera, and one of the traits of the Viera, or one of the subspecies of Viera, they get a lucky perk, which basically means anytime they get a 1, they can reroll that and use the next number. But here's the thing, that ability has no cooldown. It's not like once every long rest or short rest or a certain amount of charges. No, that ability is just there just like that. And noticing that, I realized that's a little bit overpowered. Granted, we have 2 Viera in the campaign. So you know what I did? I talked to the players and asked them what they thought about the ability. They both agreed it sounds very overpowered, and we came to an amicable conclusion that it should probably be on a short rest at least. If you have a problem with overpowered abilities for your player characters, talk to them. Don't do what Iris does and just mess with the sheet immediately just like that without them knowing what's going on. Christ! Iris kept trying to make short rests a whole day and long rests a week without changing encounters rates, or would sometimes try to make classes that get short rest abilities have triple the resources. We had a nightmare story about that, and Rogue in particular. Well, I hope I get to read it. It requires us to use ridiculous encumbrance rule that made 5 books weigh the same as a large barrel filled with ale. This led to a sorcerer who could only carry 3 books and a toolkit, and a barbarian who could carry 10 barrels of ale. Somehow. Okay, to be honest, a lot of the school texts back in high school, like the really old ones and stuff, they're pretty heavy. And if you've ever seen college textbooks, they could be heavy too, but not same size as barrel of ale. Iris would get incredibly upset if any player had any small noise come through the mic, or if any player was at any time away from their seat when Iris randomly decided to throw a fight at us. Keep in mind, we'll play over Discord. This is incredibly hypocritical considering Iris started taking walks in the middle of the session, sometimes for the entire duration of a session, even if they knew we had an important combat at the start. During these walks, Iris will go to the grocery store, spend enormous amounts of time shopping, spend time standing next to very loud beeping objects that are placed all over their hometown without ever muting themselves, and starting conversations with bystanders that would sometimes last for multiple minutes without muting, halting our roleplay. Nearly every walk-in call would be interrupted by Iris yelling out, "Oh hey there, champ," because they saw a dog that lived out in a route that would always walk. The worst part was that Iris decided that in order to better facilitate these walks, all combat would become theater of mind. This was especially bad because Iris has the absolute worst sense of distance I've ever heard of. Sometimes thinking of a small shop should randomly be over 120 feet wide, sometimes calling 30 feet too far to see, and sometimes saying 60-foot blind sight isn't large enough to see the second floor of a regular store. At one point, a major hub of an inn the party frequented, which was supposedly at the center of the world's largest city, was declared too small to host more than 20 people. Iris sounds like a disaster. Iris sounds like an absolute disaster, and it's also a disaster. It should be a torture device to be in Iris's games. Iris would randomly add new players at the start of a session without telling anyone that were doing so, then Iris would kick them just as suddenly because of various reasons. This happened so often, we had players get burnt out of it, and we had to hold an intervention to get them to stop because it was almost weekly. Thanks for reading. There'll be more, a lot more. Yes, we know we are dumb for tolerating all this for so long. At least the torture for you guys is over, and you can look back fondly with painful memories and PTSD flashbacks on the stories of Iris and share with us in the RPG Horror Stories subreddit. So for that, troopers, I thank you for your service. Now let's get to another story of Iris. The Ballad of Iris, Not So Gentle Repose. Hey there, us again, this time with a story about how my group's former DM, who we'll call Iris, railroaded the party into a boss fight, promised us it will be winnable, and then killed the barbarian in 2 rounds. So there's more to this story that isn't quite mine to tell. A party member is working on writing that, but the important lead up to the death of our furry friend is as follows. The group consisted of me playing a sorcerer, our psychic, barbarian, rogue, bard, and ranger all went to a tavern filled with criminals seeking Psychic's father, who we had been told by Psychic's aunt was being held captive there. In a first session involving the tavern, our level 4 party had to fight off about 15 bandits when they ambushed us, leaving us with very few resources for what came next. We went upstairs and found several cages hanging from high ceiling above us, around 40 feet up. We couldn't identify which cage contained Psychic's father, as I had never met him and there were dozens of people in each cage. We searched around a bit, and Bart found a series of levers and couldn't identify which controlled which, so he just pulled one at random. Instead of a cage coming down or a trap going off, this summoned an angel, and the session ended with him staring us down. You know, when I think of like a lever with like mechanical gates and everything, it's more like to open cages and lift ropes, but apparently one is just an enchanted lever to summon the heavens to you. Who would have thunk it? The next session rolls around, and we get a bit of context that apparently the thieves on the first floor were extremely incompetent and had been relying on the blessings of an angel, who they had bound to a lever for some reason, to not get caught. Rogue recognized what the angel was, and the angel proceeded to try and get Rogue to accept some sort of a deal. In the process, the angel outed himself as a manifestation of thievery. My character, who was a naive goody-goody, called down the stairs to the guards below that there's another thief up there. This resulted in the angel throwing a hissy fit and immediately started a boss fight. I cannot stress enough for the context here that Iris swore up and down leading up to the encounter that this was a winnable boss fight. In their words, it's about 50-50. We literally had no choice but to come here. Iris was rather a fan of railroading. Regardless of this promise of a fair fight, the first round opens up with the angel summoning 6 ghostly jellyfish out of the mouths of the people in the cages. We quickly discovered that they do range psychic damage and average around 10 damage a turn when refusing to come anywhere close to us and allowing the melee fighters to target them. The only party members who were able to reuse range attacks at this point, after the previous fight, were my character with 1 second level spell left and Ranger with her arrows. To make things worse, Bard, who instigated the encounter, had to miss the session, and instead of lowering the fight difficulty or playing Bard for the fight, Iris ruled Bard fell unconscious at the start of the fight. Additionally, Iris and I had built a custom culture for my character species, which viewed jellyfish as a manifestation of the soul, meaning she was completely unwilling to harm the manifestation because she assumed, and I was told I would need my whole action to figure this out if this was true, that these jellyfish were the prisoner's souls. As if that was not enough, Iris had created Psychic's spell list and only given Psychic a single weak attack cantrip. Okay, the whole jellyfish and souls and stuff, that's really cool, but a whole action to try to figure out if that's true or not, if that's part of the character's religion or the character's way of life, then obviously they would need to know that. Why aren't you not treating it as a free action? Like an arcana roll, a history roll, or something like that? Why does it have to be a whole action? Assuming this is D&D 5e, one action is about 6 seconds. You wouldn't need 6 seconds to be like, oh, what is that thing? What is that thing? What is that thing? Jellyfish souls. You just see it, be like, oh my god, no way, and then, you know, be able to shout to the rest of the party members about it or something. Also, why is Psychic getting a whole custom spell list with only 1 offensive cantrip? Unless it's like a custom class or something, but I mean, even then you would think they'll be prepared ahead of time instead of giving a whole other list. What? The fight starts, and the Angel either went first or second and immediately used some ability to steal Ranger's range attack skills. Then when Psychic attacked Angel, Angel was resistant to psychic damage. This was immediately followed by my character's Guiding Bolt doing resisted radiant damage. Then all the jellyfish used range attacks on Barbarian, bringing him to low health. 2 guards rushed up the stairs, the jellyfish killed them instantly. Then 6 additional jellyfish spawned. Rogue used their first turn to try and convince the Angel to let them take the deal and stop combat, to which the Angel responded, "She called the guards." I cannot through text do justice to the screechy, high-pitched voice. I guess I could try. "She called the guards!" Is that good? Kinda sounds pretty screechy. One of us rolled and saw the Angel was basically undamaged after taking attacks from the entire party, minus Rogue and the unconscious Bard, in the second round. Barbarian immediately goes down to more jellyfish attacks, and then they continue to attack him until he was dead without any saves. Once again, we were level 4 and now facing an Angel and 12 basically untouchable ghost jellies with more on the way. With Barbarian down, the Angel turned his sights on Ranger next. By the way, this fight seems extremely unfair. Like, I get if you want to bring a challenge to your party members, but I mean, their play is short. You gotta go a little bit easy, trying to salvage something from the situation. I used Shatter on the floor below Barbarian, dropping his body and a couple of party members to the first floor so they could bolt. They had my character dash down the stairs. The Angel and Jellies pursued, but we managed to escape, passing the saves to bring Barbarian's corpse with us. What followed next was some truly gorgeous roleplay from the party. Some of them lashing out at my character for provoking the Angel, some of them simply grieving for our sweetheart Leonin Barbarian as he asked with his dying breath if he had managed to protect us, and my character running off at a full tilt, desperately trying to find someone to bring him back as she did not yet have Revivify. Eventually, Rogue and I made a deal with an enchanter for a Scroll of Raised Dead, which became its own series of horror stories, which I'll post later, I'm sure. And we sat and mourned with brilliant roleplay on my friend's parts as we waited for the scroll. The death of Barbarian also revealed to my naive, divine soul that she has been scammed. She had purchased using her entire savings 12 ribbons of immortality, which she credited for saving her life in her introduction session. She and Barbarian had quickly become close friends. She had given him a ribbon to protect him. Her learning the truth was devastating for her, as is something Barbarian brings up fondly still. Along the way, the party reached out to my old character, who the Barbarian was close to, and she came to give her condolences, a gift for his awakening, and to cast gentle repose to help in whatever way she could. She was immediately punished by the DM. Instead of gentle repose, merely preventing the dispersal of Barbarian's soul and his body from rotting, Iris pulled Barbarian into a private call where they explained in explicit detail how in the setting gentle repose caused constant extreme torture to the soul of the body it is cast on, as it is prevented from joining the cycle of underworld torture instead. Iris suddenly retconned the torturous underworld to be much nicer than gentle repose, the spell with gentle in her name. Thankfully, Iris allowed me to take the spell back after all that was said, and Barbarian player came back explaining the torture, but honestly, it just felt like punishment for trying to do something nice in character. That was later became a common theme. Imagine taking away player interaction by causing a spell called Gentle Repose. I don't even know what the spell does. I'm gonna look it up afterwards to figure out what it is, but I mean the spell's called Gentle Repose. Whatever it is, whatever the next part would be, it's gentle. If a spell does not work in such a way, then why are you destroying it in such a way without letting the player know? If you cast Gentle Repose in this world, that could cause a lot of pain. That's like playing a gacha, but just out of nowhere, because Iris just decided, oh, we're gonna turn to gacha just like that. Gotcha, player, gotcha. Use Gentle Repose on a character that was dying to try to lessen their burden? No, you caused them more torture. Regardless of the context around it, the roleplay around Barbarian's death is still one of our favorite things we've been through as a group. Unfortunately, much of the love of that whole moment was thrown out the gosh darn window when Iris decided to make it so that the mission that had brought us there was actually fake, as Psychic's real dad was a living embodiment of imagination and had cooked up the whole quest as a way to introduce himself. We completely certain Iris retconned this into existence several sessions after the tavern incident, because a couple of us had chatted after game that Psychic's family seemed kinda one note and unreliable. Iris also used this in-game retcon to beam absolute certainty into Psychic's head that their mom was the BBG. Then not 30 seconds later, Iris changed her mind and said, never mind, you aren't certain. Why is there so much inconsistency and flip-flopping back and forth and stuff? Listen, Iris and any of the DMs out there that want to make it interesting, if you don't know if you want to use a specific NPC for a certain thing, you just don't tell them that. If you don't tell them that they're BBG, you don't tell them that they're important in some way. You just give them vague hints and then you'll figure out later along the way. By the way, if anyone's curious, Iris showed us the boss fight sheet. I did the math. The fight was statistically unwinnable even if Bard had been conscious. Additionally, Iris later revealed that they had accidentally used a slightly stronger version of the jellyfish than the version they had shown us. TLDR, DM kills off a PC in a railroaded, unwinnable boss fight that they swore was winnable, then invalidates the whole thing with a "it was a dream" reveal when we didn't like a character while still leaving the character death in. I hope we get to read more of these stories, because as far as I'm concerned, Iris is literally #1 worst DM that I've ever experienced in an RPG horror story before as part of this reading, but like, I want to know more. I want to know more because I feel like there's a lot of lessons we can learn of what not to do. And at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of these RPG horror stories, yeah, they have a little bit of a negative connotation, makes it think like, oh, there's a whole subreddit on horror stories, there must be so many happening. But you know what? I want to try to use these horror stories as a way to learn something for myself, and we can learn together as well about what to do, what not to do, what to avoid, what to look out for, because these are very important stories. Other people have suffered through this enough. Other people have suffered through the Iris storylines, and they're gladly and happily sharing with us the whole experiences of what's going on and what Iris has done in the past. I know RPG horror stories are just entertaining and stuff, but I feel like we could probably use them to like learn what to look out for and what kind of things to watch out for, and especially for other DMs that are learning of what not to do. Don't be Iris, be better than Iris. Then we just discuss here how we can be better than Iris. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG horror stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.